Okay, so here we have the Diamond Select NCC 1701 Original Series Enterprise. As you can see, it's pretty close to the original. They have their share of problems on this though. You can see quite clearly the seams going around the upper lip of the saucer section. You can also see the seams going down the warp engines, down the sides of the nacelles, down the sides of the pylons, and of course the secondary hull has a nice big seam. Other than that, I mean, you can overlook that. It's not a model, you know, it's a toy. And if you wanted to spend a lot of extra time puttying and painting, I'm sure you could get this to look perfect, but that's not what I'm into. I'm collecting them for collecting's sake. Overall, I'm pretty happy with this model. The lighting is pretty nice. It's too bad they couldn't have lit up any of the windows. But, you know, I guess that would have added more cost on. And originally, the price of these toys really wasn't very expensive at all. Like, I would assume somewhere around $25 or $30 US. I know I purchased the JJ movie Enterprise for about, geez, when it first came out, it was about $14 Canadian. It was dirt cheap. I found it at a local discount store, and they had a big pile of them. And I really should have bought a whole ton of them and saved them and sold them, because they're up to like $80 right now, and that's like a $65 profit or something. But and you know, the same goes with some of the other toys that are, you know, they've gone ridiculously high up in price, and to the point where most people who would collect them as a hobby just wouldn't be interested in purchasing them at these utterly ridiculous prices that some of these people are asking for them now. And the thing is, if you go to the Diamond Select website, you can still get quite a few of them at the original Diamond Select prices. And what these people online, you know, on Amazon and eBay think they're doing selling them when they're still available at the original prices, you know, they're trying to jack the price up as high as they can, but what's the point when you can get them elsewhere for a lot less money? Of course, there's quite a few that are just no longer available anymore, and those are the ones that are the most expensive. But I know, for example, on the Canadian Amazon website, they want about $530 for the landing party set of the communicator, phaser, and tricorder, which I bought for $115 Canadian about 3 years ago. And I looked this weekend on the Diamond Select website, and lo and behold, it's still there, and you can still buy it at a reasonably cheap price. Sure as hell not $530 Canadian. Anyone who pays that is just a sucker, in my opinion. So anyways, back to the, you know, this ship. You know, everything on it is really nice, with the exception of the stand, of course, and the seams, but the stand is the worst. You just touch it and the thing will topple over. It's a very bad quality stand. It's the worst stand of all the Diamond Select ships that I've got. I've got about 8 of them now, I guess. This one is so loose, you just touch it. I'll give you an example here. It's probably going to fall over. I'm going to try and get some of the audio to work here. Oh wow, I can't believe it didn't fall over. I'm amazed. So that's par for the course for most of these ships. You know, you press the button and they have some audio. On most of them, not all of them, if you press the button and hold it in, the lights will come on and stay on, which is pretty cool. That's what you want for, you know, showing a model off in a case kind of thing. Other than that, there's not really that much special about them, except that you basically can't get any other kinds of ships anywhere else, unless you want, you know, small little dinky ships, which are available in quite a few different places and quite a large variety of ships from Star Trek, I might add. But if you want something in similar sizes to this, Diamond Select is your only choice. And I've got to say, overall, they've done a pretty good job. I haven't been upset at any of the toys that I've bought with their brand on them. They've all been pretty good overall. Okay, here we go again. Being an old guy, of course, my favorite ships are from the original series. This is the original series Romulan Bird of Prey. the original Bird of Prey. I mean, what more can you say? Just look at it. It looks absolutely awesome. From the bottom of the ship, you can see, of course, the painting of the feather from the bird. It looks like a bird from the bottom. And it's got those little engines on the sides that we know from the original series are not warp nacelles because they didn't have warp drive, which they do a poor job in that episode, of course, of explaining why the Enterprise doesn't just go shooting past the Romulan ship, since the Enterprise is going in warp and the Romulan ship is going at impulse speeds. But of course they were just sort of working out what warp and impulse and all that were back then, so I guess we can give them a break. You can see what would be the Bussard collectors on a Federation ship actually change color here, and that's pretty cool. I guess it didn't really do that in the original ship, but it's a nice little touch on this ship. And again, you can see it's got the mode where all the lighting will stay on if you hold the button in for 5 seconds or so. It's also got a lot of audio phrases, and from the original actor who played, of course, both the Romulan captain in this episode and later played Spock's father, Surik. We can see here, we can do a little bit of, there's turning the audio off. Activate our cloak, he says. It's just great to hear his voice and hear it so clearly.
I find myself wishing for destruction before we can return.
It's really a lot of fun to look up at these ships while you're watching one of the Star Trek shows and just have a look at something a little more closely that they're showing in the show. Of course, you don't get a really good shots of the original ships and everything in the original series, but we can get better looks at them in places like Star Trek Online, where you can actually get some of these ships and you can play them in the game online. So this is pretty nice. Again, it wasn't too expensive. This is a 50th anniversary edition, and I would expect them to disappear because of that very fact, but who knows, Diamond Select might have gotten smart this time and actually made more so that they wouldn't run out. It's really sad to see these guys buying them up in droves and then cranking the price up and reselling them so people can't get them at a decent price and enjoy them. But that's the way it goes. We'll be back shortly, and we'll bring you yet another Diamond Select Star Trek ship. Okay, we're back, and yeah, everybody will pretty much recognize that these days, and that's pretty sad. Sorry about that, but really that's the way I feel. This is the next one up. This, of course, is the Enterprise from the JJ movies. I'm not a big fan of those movies. As standalone movies, maybe if they didn't have the title Star Trek on them, they might have been okay movies. The last one was probably the best of the three. Of course, JJ didn't have anything to do with that, and his attempt to turn Star Trek into Trek Wars, with him and his little stupid pew-pew phasers and his brewery fucking engine room, and his enough wasted space to put another starship in, and his Apple Store bridge. You know, none of these things impressed me at all. And of course, if we take that as the icing on the cake, because all the layers below that, right down to the foundation of those movies, were basically all in error. All the science, it's all based off of JJ pretty much fucked it all up. But of course, that's got nothing to do with this. All we're doing is looking at some ships here, some toys. This is another Diamond Select toy. This one is the one that cost me $14 Canadian when I purchased it, and now it's up around $80 or $90 or something. It's ridiculously overpriced. You know, I would say $25 Canadian would be plenty to pay for a ship like this. It looks okay. Of course, it's sort of the silly-ish looking JJ design, but the toy itself is a pretty good replica. Overall, it's built pretty well. I'd actually say it's built a little bit better than the original series Enterprise, but just because the scale is different, that makes the pieces on here a little thicker and heavier on a smaller scale ship, means it's a little more sturdy design that we're looking at here. There's no mode in this to turn the lights on and let it just sit there for display, which is really unfortunate. But what we do have is the ability to get a few phrases out of it.
Maneuvering thrusters, Mr. Sidley. Arm phase and fire everything they got.
God, I hate that phrase. He sounds like such a douchebag there. Arm phasers and fire everything we got. It's like, yeah, why don't you shut the fuck up, Captain, and let somebody else be in charge? That guy's a dick. He sort of gave, you know, Kirk always had a swagger, but the way Shatner played him, his swagger was earned. In here, I just get the idea that Kirk is just a bit of a douchebag, and that's the way the actor seems to portray him, as a bit of a dick. And I don't think that that's a part of Kirk's personality at all. So I don't really agree with how the direction he took that character in. Most of the other characters I had no problems with. I wasn't all that impressed with some of them, but overall Spock was well done. McCoy was perfect, just perfect. That actor is just great. Uhura was pretty good, a little bit different, I thought, than how Nichelle portrayed it in the original series, but I can sort of understand times change, so the character, she updated it a little bit. Of course, I'm not very impressed with the whole relationship between Uhura and Spock. It's something that never should have happened, but again, we had to JJ prize the whole show, and that's the way it turned out. Okay, we're going to be back shortly onto another ship, and hopefully that will be the last word you ever hear from me on the series of movies that were based on JJ ideas. Be right back. Okay, we're back, and hey, look what we got here. Unfortunately, there is no original series Klingon ship such as the Katinga available from Diamond Select. There is none. It's unfortunate. I would love to have had the original series Enterprise, Romulan ship, Bird of Prey, and Klingon Katinga class or something. That would have been great. But this is the next best thing. This is the Bird of Prey. It's not from the original series, but it is from the original series movies. This is the one with Christopher Plummer, and we see the same ship or similar design ships in the Next Generation as well. So this is a ship that's been tried and true for the Klingon fleet. We can see in this particular case it's got the lights on, and it's got a mode where you hold the button in, of course, and after 5 seconds the lights will come on and stay on. It's got some audio modes as well, which are pretty nice. Christopher Plummer. Of course, that's not Christopher Plummer, but well, I hope it's not stuck in demo mode here for some reason. It looks like it is. So I have to go and find the switch and turn it on into full mode from demo mode. Usually it's in the battery compartment. It's unfortunate I don't recall turning the switch off, but oh well, these things happen. Of course, the other thing is that the wings on this work. They're a little stiff to move the wings up and down. As you can see, a little on the stiff side, but still looks pretty sweet like that. So you have the two poses. You can see the ribs along the spine at the back are sort of scraped up and dirty looking. I've never really had a close-up look at that myself on video to see what those actually look like. It seems like sort of an odd design if you ask me, but I guess whatever works. The paint is beautiful on this. It's dirty. It looks like it's been through the ringer and back right as soon as you take it out of the box. It looks really great, unlike, of course, all the Federation ships that are all pristine looking, unless you purchase one that specifically has battle damage on it. It's just too bad about the ship being in demo mode. Unfortunately, it'll only make that one sound until you shut it off, so I have to open the battery compartment to fix that. But other than that, I gotta say, you know, this is the most sturdy ship. I've dropped it and it didn't put a lick of damage on it. Of course, couldn't make it look any dirtier than it already looks. It's all the parts on it are thick and robust. The stand is very stiff, so you can pose it very well. The stand is everything all the other stands should be on this. This is a very heavy ship, and compared to the other ships, for its size, it's quite a bit heavier, and I think it's definitely one you're going to want to add to your collection. I think other than the Klingon ships that are supposedly in the process of cloaking, they have one or two ships like that, and they look really bad. The plastic on them, the wings and the guns and the spine, they're made out of like a clear green plastic, and it's supposed to represent it being in transition between normal and cloak, and it just looks really stupid. I don't think it's something I would ever buy. But these ones here are not cloaked, and they just look awesome. I fail to see how they really could have done a better job than they did. Okay, here we go. Here we have my latest acquisition for the ships. It's of course, a model of the NX-01 from the series Enterprise. It's apparently, supposedly the first Enterprise, Starship Enterprise. And you can see it's got, again, the lights only mode that it's displaying in right now. It's also got some sound effects going off right now. I don't know if you can hear them or not. I'll shut up for a second. So it's the kind of thing you would expect to hear in the background if you were inside the ship. Paint, very well done again. Just like the Klingon ship, it's very accurate to the show. And it's very detailed. They did a wonderful job on the paint on this ship. The seams aren't too bad. In most places it's a little difficult to see them, although you can see a nice seam right along the edge of the warp engine pylons. But a lot of them are sort of hidden by the paint. So, you know, in that respect, it's not too bad. The stand is nice and stiff on this model. The one complaint I have about it is that you can't seem to get the ship to sit straight on that stand. No matter how hard I try, it always seems to be sitting at an angle like it is now. Now, that's not so bad. I mean, you don't want all your ships sitting perfectly straight, you know, in the same direction or something. Or do you? Overall, this looks pretty nice. It's got, again, the audio modes. There's a lights only without the sound effects. Off.
This is Captain Archer of the Starship Enterprise. We're on a mission of exploration from the planet Earth.
That guy sure talked a lot, didn't he?
Prepare for warp.
Okay, that was short and sweet. It's a pretty good replica. I like it.
Scanners. Keep an eye out for any Klingon ships coming this way.
It's pretty close to in scale with the original series Enterprise. It's quite a bit smaller. That's something that sort of bothers me about the Diamond Select toys, is that they're not all at the same scale. Especially the Klingon Bird of Prey is much too large. It's well built. It's a very nice toy, but the scale makes it look a little ridiculous beside the other toys. Other than that, you know, there's not anything really too special about this, other than its price. I think it was over $100 Canadian. Wow, kills me how much money they're asking for some of these things now, especially the ones that, you know, are off of their official production run and they're no longer available from the original manufacturer or in toy stores anymore. It just kills me. I had to grab it though before the, you know, the scammers crank the price up to ridiculous proportions. There's a couple of ships that I still want to get, but that are just way priced out of my price range, so there's no way I'll ever bother with them. But this particular ship, I really wanted to grab it before the price went up much more than it already was. Overall, I think it's a pretty nice toy. Another good job from Diamond Select. Okay, here we have one of my more recent acquirees. This is the USS Excelsior, of course. It's out of the original series movies. Beautiful ship. It's the same design as the Enterprise B would have been had it, you know, made it into the movies. I guess technically it did. I think one of them was, to be honest, you know, I can't remember where the Enterprise B showed up, but it was an Excelsior class ship, just like this. This particular ship is not exactly one of my favorite designs. It's a little bit silly looking, I think, for various assorted reasons. The neck joining the primary and secondary hulls at the front is, I think, in my opinion, too thick, too cumbersome looking. The complete flat top of the secondary hull is also something I find a little silly looking. I don't see any reason why they would make it like that on a real ship. And you combine these things with the right angles of the warp pylons. I just don't think it looks as sleek as any of the other ships. Even the original series Enterprise, with its tubes and discs, looked, I think, better than this ship does. But I mean, it's still a nice ship, you know. I'm not saying it's ugly, I'm just saying it's not my favorite, that's for sure. It's got all the lights in all the right places. The price was certainly right at about $80 or $85 Canadian. That was pretty decent. That was right off of Amazon. They also have the Enterprise version of this ship, and of course they want more money for it just because it has the Enterprise numbers and name on the saucer hull instead of Excelsior. I don't think I'm going to buy that ship just to complete the collection. It's basically the same ship this is with a different decal on it, so I can't see myself collecting both of them. Overall, the ship has basically the same features as the other ships. A similar sort of design for the stand, although in this particular case it stands up correctly. You don't have to worry about it falling over if you sneeze on it or look at it the wrong way. It's got the same features. You can turn the lights off. You can get some audio snippets.
USS Excelsior. Hikaru Sulu commanding.
There's Sulu. I have no idea what that audio was supposed to be. It sounded like background noise from the ship or something. I guess he wanted them to put the shields on. And I guess there he needs a damage report. Well, he's good at shouting orders anyway. You know, it's a nice ship. It's a nice addition to the collection, and I think it was well worth the money I paid for it. Even if I think all these ships are overpriced, but you know, for the amount of money some of the other ships are going for, this was a bargain. Nice one to add to your collection for sure. We'll be back shortly and we'll see what else we can dig up. Okay, here we have another little sweetie. Oh, it's a little this time. This is the All Good Things Enterprise D. Now, this Enterprise, no, that's not correct. It's not Enterprise D. Oh, it is Enterprise D. Okay. This the only place you really saw it in the or in the Next Generation was in the final episode where oh, I'm sorry, or was it in the final episode of Voyager where Janeway goes back in time and she needs to get her butt saved. No, I'm pretty sure it was the last of the original, or the Next Generation, where they had Picard had to go out with Beverly in the science vessel, and they were getting their asses handed to them by the Klingons, and along comes Riker to save the day, and he comes along in this ship. Now this is referred to in Star Trek Online as a dreadnought. You can see the main change from the Next Generation Enterprise is the third warp engine, and of course on the top of the saucer hull you can see two what look like weapons, forward-facing weapons, and along the bottom of the primary hull, going back to the neck, there is what they refer to as a phaser lance, and that's the wicked kick-ass weapon that basically sliced the Klingons up into little pieces when Riker used it on them. Personally, I've always found these ships to be a little bit on the silly side. I've never been a fan of the three-engine design. If you look back through the technical manuals and other literature on Star Trek, they talk about balancing the warp field and how that's best done with an even number of engines, but it seems that even in some original series literature, they had some ships like scout type ships, or even some transport ships that had a single warp engine, and I don't know how they could have managed to balance a single warp engine, but they did, I guess, have designs like that, so they just carried on the tradition, and here we have a 3 warp engine dreadnought. It's a pretty nice model. It's very heavy. As you can see, it's got 2 stands. I did not put this on my little turntable platter because I think it probably would have made that little platter beg for mercy. It's not exactly a high quality platter. This thing weighs a ton, and easily weighs as much as the Klingon bird of prey weighs. It's got 2 sections there, the primary saucer section and the secondary engineering section. They separate, they're held together by very strong magnets. There's no way they're going to come apart unless you pull them apart. The problem with all this weight, combined with the fact that these stands were not the right size for the ship, that caused a problem for me. Those 2 things combined, I had to actually put a DVD case under the front stand in order to get the ship to be level. Didn't matter which stand I used in the front or the back, the ship was never level. It was always pointed in a downward slope, and the only way to straighten it up was by putting a DVD case under the front stand. Now I had it sitting like this, and it was sitting like that for at least a year, I would say. And one night, Buddy and I are sitting here playing video games, and we heard a loud crash. And we looked around, and we didn't realize what had happened. And the next day when I came home from work, he said, "Hey, you know what that crash was?" And he showed me the ship. It had fallen down off of the bookshelf all by itself, because the stand holding up the secondary hull, the neck was so thin at the top, it just broke all by itself. No added pressure from anything. It was just sitting there and fell and broke all by itself. I couldn't believe it. I just don't understand what high degree of education it takes to design a couple of stands that won't let a toy like this fall down, won't break, and will actually hold it up straight so it's not pointed down all the time. Now there is a company online, you can look for them. They're a hobby shop company, and they make a lot of different things. It's a US company, and they make stands specifically for these toys. And I've thought about buying some, but they're really just bent pieces of plastic that look pretty and have some little plaque writing on them. And they want $25 US or something per each stand. That's for anybody that has, say, a 10 ship collection. that's a lot of fucking money for stands, and I just can't justify that really. But so this ship here is now sitting straight, as you can see. The reason is because that stand that broke because of the thin neck, I took a knife and I carved what was left of the tip down, and I got it to fit in the hole in the secondary section just perfectly. And as you can see now, it's sitting level. And you can tell, you know, if you added another inch onto the back of the rear stand there, you can tell what direction it would be pointed in. That is just not a good look for that ship. So you can see right now all the lights are on. Classic mode for a lot of these ships, as I've shown before. I'll see if I can shut them off here. It looks pretty nice like that. They're very bright and everything. You can shut them off. Here we go. Now, something I didn't even know you could do on this until tonight. I was trying to turn the light mode on, and I couldn't get it to work. There's actually two switches here. There's one on the secondary hull and one on the primary hull. On the primary hull, you push it in and you get the audio effects. But something I didn't realize it would do is if you hold this button in, and now it's going to do all the effects that it has, all the audio effects, one after another in sequence. I guess it's only something they could have done with this design, because it has two hulls that separate. It's got two switches on it, so each section can light up individually. And because of that, they were able to build this type of a display mode into both hulls, and that's pretty cool. I've got to give them kudos for that. The primary hull goes through its batteries like crazy. I don't know why. I don't know what's different about the primary hull, but I'm constantly having to change the batteries up there. I'd say every 6 months to 8 months I've got to take them out and replace them. Even though it's not like I play with it or anything, I just go to try it and it doesn't work, and I replace the batteries and it works. The secondary hull batteries haven't had to be replaced yet. They're very robust. The cool thing is that when you separate the two hulls, you'll get Riker's voice saying emergency saucer set. And I would do it here, but it's a little difficult to pull them apart because of how strong the magnets are, and I don't want to whack it into my monitor or something, as you can see in the background there. So I gotta say, overall, this is a pretty cool ship. When I got the first one, the battery compartment on the bottom of the secondary hull wouldn't stay in place, and it was because the little post inside there that the screws into was broken off and was rattling around inside the ship. I whined and complained to Amazon, and they said, okay, just buy another one and we'll pay for it. And I sent the original one back to them, of course. So I did that, and that was great, but it turned out that this ship has a warp engine strut on the right side that's a little bit warped. So if you look at it straight on from the front or the back, you'll see that that particular warp engine is warped off to the side a little bit. I guess that's why they call it a warped engine. But other than that, it looks pretty nice. I would love to get the next generation Enterprise, not the Dreadnought version, but the dickwads have cranked that price on that to over $200 now, and there's just no way I'm ever going to buy it unless they come out with a new production run. That's what they did on the NX-01, by the way. The Enterprise series Enterprise, NX-01, there was a production run of that, and it sold out. They cranked the prices up on what was left, and you know, you're looking at around $200 or something for that. But then they came out with a new production run, and they actually improved the audio snippets and the functionality inside to give it the all lighting mode and everything. And so the second run of that ship was a better ship, and the price was you know, of course, low because it was a second production run. Comparatively low, I should say. I still paid around $100 for it, But you know, that's a lot better than paying twice as much for a ship because some asshole has 10 of them in his closet and he won't sell them unless you pay his price. That's hardly supply and demand. That's hoarding demand, basically. Okay, so we'll have a look. I think we might have one more ship to show you for the Star Trek lineup. There's some other goodies here as well. I do have a model of the original series Enterprise, but it's not really painted very well. All the decals have basically fallen off of it. It's very old. I guess I should maybe get around to fixing it up because it doesn't have any lighting on it, but it's not too bad of a model, and you can get decals for it online from Polar Lights, of all places. So I could improve that, but really I want to see if I can find maybe someone selling the Diamond Select toy that might not know what they have, or isn't interested in trying to gouge you for every cent he can get. And you know, I mean, I'd pay $100 for that ship, but I'm not paying 200 plus for it. There's just no way. They've done the same thing with the movie Enterprise, the first movie Enterprises, for example, from the Star Trek the Motion Picture and Star Trek the Wrath of Khan. And I think they might have had a damaged Star Trek Wrath of Khan version of the Enterprise as well. And I think they had one other one. I can't remember what it is offhand. I think it might have been from the Christopher Plummer movie. But, you know, all of those, just because I guess that's some people's favorite version, those prices have just been cranked up again. And I'm not paying for that stuff at those prices. It's just too expensive. But I'll get what I can for what prices I can afford, and hopefully I'll be able to slowly build up my collection. Let's see what else I've got to put up on the little turntable. Okay, we're back, and here we're looking at the Enterprise E. And I'm not even sure, what an awesome Trekkie, eh? Not even sure which movie this is from. I'm wondering if it's not Generations. I think it was before Generations. What was the previous movie to that where the Enterprise got shit kicked? Oh right, the Enterprise gets shit kicked in every movie, doesn't it? Keep forgetting about that. Hope it doesn't fall over there. This is a very long model. I wouldn't be surprised if it approaches 2 feet. Very skinny, of course, long and skinny. I guess some girls like that. A lot of people say that this is their favorite version of the Enterprise because they think it looks so sleek, and you know, fair enough. It was really built to be a weapon to fight the Borg with. So I guess it would have to be sort of a pretty sweet ship. But, you know, I don't know. It seems to lose that that look that we get used to from the Federation. But hey, there's nothing wrong with a new look, right? I mean, it's a pretty nice looking ship, I guess, and whether or not it's just like the other ones isn't important. Of course, there's going to be a nice variety of ships in any fleet, and this would be one of the different ones. You can see a couple of nice big fat seams right there on the side of the ship, right ahead of the warp pylons there. Other than that, the seams aren't too bad on this ship. The paint job is pretty nice. It's pretty detailed. It has like the plating on the hull all painted in there and everything. The detailing is pretty good. There's no lights on mode for this one, unfortunately. I really love it when they come with a mode like that, especially with the sound effects on it like the Romulan ship has. That's just great. And of course the NX-01 Enterprise, same thing. It has a lighting mode with sound effects, and it's awesome. But as we know from the Dreadnought Enterprise D from All Good Things, and the Klingon Bird of Prey, we can get a mode where it will basically give us all the effects one after the other. And thankfully this ship is no different. This has that mode. See if we can get it going here. Hold it in for about 5 seconds.
Engage.
Can basically see a seam at the front of the warp engines lighting up in yellow. I don't know why they put a yellow light in there.
Final
or if it's just a white light shining through a yellow section of the hull, or maybe the plastic is actually yellow before it's painted. I don't know what's going on there, but it looks pretty funny. You know, again, these ships they're not models, they're toys, and more's the pity how they ever get so expensive being a toy. Well, I guess it's the same people that pay a fortune for a frickin' Furby or something like that. There's no stopping these profiteers, I guess. It's unfortunate because it would be nice if all the fans could really enjoy stuff like this at reasonable prices, but you know, I say go out and grab what you can when you can, because you never know when this stuff just isn't going to be around anymore at all. It's not like you see it in every store you walk into, so it's something that I think is worth collecting. I've been increasing my Star Wars collection a little bit too. I'm not really you know, a leaner on one series or the other. I really like Star Wars as well. Maybe I like Star Trek a little more just because it was the first one along, and I watched the original series in its early runs. I really enjoyed that series, but the Star Wars movies, when they came out, boy, that summer I saw that movie 10 times in the theater, and I was a broke-ass teenager. So paying $8 10 times at that particular time to go and see a movie, that was a lot of money for me, and that tells you how much or how amazed we were with Star Wars in general when it hit the theaters. So we were pretty happy that another high-quality franchise had come out, and of course that paved the way for them to release the Star Trek the Motion Picture. At the time they weren't really sure if they could get much of a budget out of you know, sci-fi movies like that. The history of sci-fi movies really wasn't much to be proud of, with one or two exceptions here and there, namely possibly you know, 2001 A Space Odyssey, and whatever that movie was, Silent Running with Bruce Dern. That was another good budget movie that was pretty decent. And those were, you know, the space sci-fi movies, and up until then what we'd usually seen were things like Buck Rogers that were just basically dumbass serials in the theaters, with the only exception possibly being oh, what is the one with Robbie Robot, Forbidden Planet. I guess that's about the only exception from the 1950s and earlier eras for serious science fiction, and even that didn't go on to make a fortune in the theaters. It was a good movie, and I guess it was a little ahead of its time. But by the time Star Wars came out, or just after Star Wars came out, they finally realized that yes, they can make money from science fiction. We started, and good science fiction, so we got our Star Trek the Motion Picture after that, and of course Battlestar Galactica, and then the theater started filling up with the likes of Alien and other movies that were just great movies. So, you know, Star Wars helped boost everything along at a time when the boost was desperately needed. So kudos to Star Wars for helping Star Trek beat its way out of its wet paper bag. And now that we've got both franchises, and hopefully they'll both be around for a good long time, because I'd be really sad to see either one of them go. This is basically the last ship that I have to show off. I have some little other small odds and ends that I'm going to bring over and throw on the turntable there. I have other videos up of other all of these things individually. I thought I'd just make one long video and patch it all together and see how it looks. I picked up a new camcorder, so I thought that I'd try out the new toy. This is specifically why I bought it, to do these videos, so I hope they turn out well, and I hope some people view them and they get appreciated. I'll see what else I have to throw on the old turntable there. Even have a few little Star Wars toys, but nothing to be amazed about. They're mostly little snap together models, nothing too incredible. Star Wars is not a rare toy. There are so many of them out there that you know, sure, ones from back at the original movie are rare, but right now you can go into just about any toy store anywhere and find Star Wars toys, where you can go into just about any toy store anywhere and not find a single Star Trek toy. And this is why I think right now any toys like this or memorabilia coming out for Star Trek is getting bought up so quickly. and then the scalpers are basically boosting the prices up and trying to resell them. We're not going to see that with all the Star Wars merchandise, because there's just so much of it out there right now. Eventually, when a lot of it gets destroyed or thrown away, or parents throw it out when the kids move out and go to college or whatever, until that happens, prices aren't going to be going anywhere for Star Wars stuff, especially current Star Wars stuff. But stuff from back in the 70s, if you can find it, it's still worth a few bucks, that's for sure. Okay, let's go and see if we've got anything left that we can throw on there. Be right back. Okay, here we have two of my favorite things. These are, of course, the original series communicator and the original series phaser, made by the Wand Company. These are basically the best replicas you can get right now. There aren't any better than these. The phaser is actually a universal remote control. You can program it to use some of the commands from your TV. There's a specific mode on the phaser that's just for sending commands to a TV. You can pull the trigger to shut the TV off. You can jerk the phaser to the side to go up channel, jerk it to the other side to go down channel, jerk it up to go up volume, and jerk it down to go down volume. I'm not sure what other functions it has built into it for the remote, because to be honest, I really didn't buy it because it's a remote control. I bought it because it's a very good replica with lots of metal parts in it. It feels great, it sounds great, the effects are awesome. It's got that nice magnetic stand that holds it up in the display mode like this. I really can't think of anything they could do that would make this phaser better than it is. Maybe with one small minor exception, maybe two, okay, and they're being very nitpicky. One is on the top of the phaser, on the phaser 1, which is the small little phaser on the top. There's two dials up there, and in the original series those would both be dials. One dial you push forward and it raises the grid at the front, and inside there is some sort of crystal sighting apparatus, and I'm not quite 100% sure how the theory goes behind how it functions, but of course on any replica or model ever produced, it's non-functional. There's no sight there. You can pop it up and there's a little clear little window in there, but you can't see anything through it. I can only imagine on the original series that maybe they had some kind of a lighting system in there, and maybe a little blip for any targets that might be ahead of you, and as you move the phaser around, the blip would center or something. Other than that, I can't really see how you would look through it or something. So I'm really not sure how it was supposed to work. The larger, thicker dial beside it is supposed to dial up and down the severity of the shot that you fire with that phaser. But in this particular model, or replica, what they've done is made that into a button. So, you press it once, you get a stun, you press it a second time, you get heavy stun, you press it a third time, it gives you heat, and a fourth time might be disintegrate or whatever. It goes up to 8 or 9 presses. You get different sound effects for each one. One of them, if you put it on there and pull the trigger, you get the overload sound that you get from the original series. On another one, you press it and it actually sounds like photon torpedoes being fired from the original series ship. It's very unusual. Oh, it also has that sort of a burst stun mode that they use in 1 or 2 episodes, where it doesn't sound like the regular phaser beam, and it is sort of like a pulse shot instead of a beam shot. Great replica. I just can't say enough about it. It's damn expensive. That frickin' thing, the cheapest I could find it in Canada, including shipping, was about 200 bucks. And I looked for a good month. Every third or fourth night I'd come home and spend another hour looking. I Googled and Googled and Googled and Googled. I found an open box one on eBay USA, and they were willing to ship to Canada. But after pricing it out, I found that it would have cost about as much as this one did. This one came from a company with a website in Ontario. It turns out they also have I guess they're a franchise or something, because they have a mother company in the UK, and the phaser was actually shipped to me from Spain. So it's a really weird roundabout way that it took to get here, but the shipping didn't charge any or cost anything extra. As I said, it was about $200 including shipping and taxes and everything. So I ordered it from a website in Ontario that sent the order to their mother company in the UK, that sent the shipping order to Spain, and they shipped it to me. And all of that for $200. If you're going to go on to Amazon.ca to buy one of these, you're looking at about $300 to buy it. The same goes with the communicator, by the way. They've cranked the price up on that. Moving on to the communicator now, you know, I spent about $160 on the communicator. It was a very good deal. It was the last one on Amazon from the company that was selling it at that price. So I was lucky to get it. All of them are over $200 now if you want to buy another one off of Amazon. Now there are some places that you can buy them, like for example a site called ThinkGeek. They sell them. Their prices are very good, but of course it's an American site. The prices are in American dollars. You're looking at possible import fees for something that pricey. How much money you're going to save by the time you get it here, I'm really not sure. Which is unfortunate, because I really think everyone should have one of these. Every single Star Trek fan should have one of these. I have the Diamond Select toy replicas, and they're very well done for toys. I mean, they are very well done, but you know, they just can't compare to these. They don't have the weight, they don't have the quality, they don't have the materials. And to give you an example here of the phaser, this is magnetically attached right here, and it comes off. It's very heavy. The secondary phaser pops off like that. This is your phaser 1. Turn it on. I guess we have to hold the button in to turn it on. Okay, it's in effects mode, and that basically means there's your trigger on the bottom. Sounds sweet, eh? Oh, I just shot you. So, but on this, you can't change it to a different mode other than your remote mode. So you've got several different modes for your remote. You come back to here and you're back to your effects mode, but you can't change the effect. Now in the original series, you'd be able to change that dial up and down, and that would give you the different stun shots and heating shots and whatever other types of shots they have. So you can't do that on here. There's the dial that pushes up the sight. As I said, I have no idea how that sight is supposed to work in the original series. You never really see them use it very much. The secondary phaser, very nice. It has the focus control on the front. I've been told to leave that alone, because if you turn it and you pull the focus out too far, you can actually disconnect it on the inside and you can't pull it back in again. So that's something that I've luckily known not to play around with. In here we have the dilithium chamber. You can see a crystal in there that's supposed to be the dilithium crystal. That's sort of nerdy, I guess. There's your trigger down there. It's a pretty heavyweight trigger. I always wondered on the original series, you know, there was no trigger guard or anything. So how do they prevent themselves from accidentally shooting somebody? And I guess it's just because the trigger is so stiff that you really have to give it a good squeeze to fire it off. This control on the back here would be for controlling your different effects. That's what the phaser 1 is missing, and that's why once you set the phaser 1 using the phaser 2 control and you take it off, you're stuck with that setting until you put it back on and change it. So right now, that's the setting we've got. Okay, we add it back on to the phaser 2, and we pull the trigger, and it's even got a rumble inside it. So when you pull the trigger, you can feel it vibrate in your hand, and that's pretty cool. You can see at the front there, it changes the color of the light. Now when we adjust it here, we get our different effects, and that is just great. I just love this. That's pretty funny. Okay, and there's your overload that I was referring to. Don't know if you can hear it very well. I'm not going to let it sit and go through the whole overload. It's sort of silly. Okay, and there we're right back to square one. There's no effect there. There's our little pew-pew stun effect. So, and they all give you different lighting effects at the front. So this is something I've wanted ever since I was a kid. And of course, when you're a young adult, you're not usually working a very solid job, and there's no way you could afford something like this when it came out. Now that I'm approaching retirement age, basically I was finally able to sort of squeeze enough money out of my pocket to be able to pick that up. That is great. Any Star Trek fan will love this, especially if they're a fan of the original series. Now, if we move on to the communicator, the communicator is actually a Bluetooth hands-free set that will connect to your phone. So you can connect it to your phone. You can set up the ringtone and put your phone in your pocket. And when you hear the boop boop from the communicator, you can take it out and flip it open, and it'll answer your incoming call. Not only that, but you can use the Google Voice Assist, or I suppose you could use Siri as well, and you can give it the voice commands required to place a call, or to place a text, or to read a text for you if somebody sends you a text. It's a wonderful, wonderful replica. Again, very heavy. Everything that was there in the original series is there. It works beautifully. It's got some effects built into it.
Enterprise, Spock here. Yes, Captain. Yes, Captain. McCoy here.
So overall, very nicely done.
Voice command.
And there I could issue a voice command to my phone right now if I wanted to. It's connected to my phone. I don't really need to.
Not sure how to help with that.
And that's the Google Voice Assistant being the stupid Google Voice Assistant that it is. Other than that, usually I just shut them off. You can see the Moyer pattern here that they have from the original series. There's a little motor in there that actually turns that. It shuts that off after about 30 seconds though, to save battery power. So when you first open it up, you can see it's on there. So, these are two of my favorite things. Absolutely, I just love them. I wish I could get a tricorder that was the same quality as this. I did pick up the landing party set before it got too expensive from Diamond Select, and it's a great set. I can't say anything bad about it, but overall it's just nowhere near this kind of quality. But unfortunately, from the Wand Company, there is no tricorder available, which is a very, very, very sad thing, because that would just be the icing on the cake for the set. We will be back shortly. I'm starting to run out of things to show you. My collection hasn't been that big yet. I've only been collecting it for a couple of years. I have some small little things maybe to throw up there. Other than that, hey, if anybody's out there and they want to donate to the cause, be my guest. Just drop me a message here and say, hey, I got this cool Star Trek toy I can send you. And you can just send it here, collect or something. I'll pay the shipping, no problem, because I would just love to get every little Star Trek collectible I can get my hands on. There's a lot of them out there, unfortunately, and I can't afford to get them all, but hey, I'll take anything I can get from anybody who wants to give it away. And no, I'm not too proud. I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Hold your britches. Okay, what we're looking at now is a phaser from one of the earlier Star Trek movies. I'm trying to think of which one it was. I do not believe it was The Wrath of Khan. It might have been, I'm really not sure what it was. After The Wrath of Khan was The Voyage Home, or The Search for Spock, I'm sorry, and then there was The Voyage Home. It would have to have been something after that, I believe. I'm not as up on my naming as I should be, but that's okay because I really don't give a crap about names. It's one of the movie phasers, and it's very similar to the original series phaser. They've made it a little sleeker looking, as you can see. It also looks way more plasticky. Now, why it does, I'm not really sure, because the original one is mostly black, but you know, this just looks like a big chunk of plastic. It really does. But it has some weight to it. It's not anything near as weighty as the phaser is from the Wand company, but it's got a little bit of weight to it. It's comfortable, and it looks sort of sweet. But you know, to be honest with you, it sort of looks like a kid's toy, whereas the original series phaser looked more like a weapon. And you know, even right down to all the little screw holes that are plugged up with all these little plastic plugs here. It looks sort of silly. There's a hell of a lot of them on there too. I guess I should be showing it from this side. Even the handle is cut on an angle on the bottom. It would be nice if it came with a stand or something, especially considering the price that I paid for it. But it is a pretty cool little toy. Turn it on in the back here. And right now it's on, but it's not set for anything, so it doesn't do anything. It just whines that it's not set. Press the button once and supposedly you're in stun. They all sound identical, so they didn't change the sound effects, really. I've never really cared for that particular sound effect anyway. I like the original series sound effects. I don't see why they needed to change them. Now they can say, oh well, it's old school, it's got to be up. You know, it's the sound. When's the last time the sound of a pistol changed? Yeah, guns sound like guns, right? And that's the way it should be with phasers. Phasers should sound like phasers. But you know, it's a nice little design. Phaser 1 pops off of Phaser 2 again. Trigger on the top this time. And that's about all it does. You can put it into overload mode by holding the trigger and the button down simultaneously. It's not anything that you haven't seen before. There we go. If it'll work. Here we go. I assume it's going to blow up pretty soon, but I don't really want to wait for it. Off it goes. At least it's got a nice on-off switch there, even if it is a stupid 21st century or 20th century switch, you know, and it's got no place being on a phaser that's 600 years from now, but that's okay. You know, if they needed a switch to turn it off, and it's better to have it turn off than to go through as many batteries as some of these other toys do. We can get it plugged in there, and it's right back on again. So it's cute, nothing too amazing. Worth it, you know, adding to the collection. Another little something that we have that I think is pretty sweet, and there's two of these. I have one of them. Oops, I just shot my buddy Al. Okay, that's the Klingon Disruptor. I'm not sure which series that was from, or if it was from a movie or not. We know for sure that it wasn't from the Next Generation, where they put together that stupid disruptor from parts. They're Klingon prisoners, and as the guy's shooting it, it's almost falling apart in his hand because they never made the parts lock together on the prop. That was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen in the Star Trek, personally. It reminded me of the bad effects from early Doctor Who shows or something. But you know, this is a pretty good replica of a Klingon disruptor. And again, you can see you know, it looks a little rusty here and there, and you know, the paint is a little coarse looking, and just exactly what you would expect to see in a Klingon weapon. It does have an unusual firing mechanism. I guess Klingons like to use their thumb instead of their finger. And it has a few different modes. Definitely worth adding to the collection. There is another Klingon Disruptor available from the same company, and it's slightly different than this. Would I add it to the collection? Possibly. Maybe if I could create a little gun mount of some type and have the two, you know, pointing towards each other from different directions, that would look sort of cool. But I would want something to put in between them as well. I don't have any other Klingon things at the moment that might do that job. But it's something to think about. I'm not even positive I'm going to go further with the Klingon aspect. I suppose I could pick up one of those cheesy foam batliths or something, but yeah, I think this is probably as far as I'm going to go. It's cute, but I really like the Federation designs a little better. Wouldn't mind having a Romulan disruptor though. They look pretty cool. Okay, so here's a little collection I have of some Star Trek memorabilia. There's this guy called Chip Carter, and I stumbled across him on Amazon while I was looking for Star Trek toys. And he makes these little replicas you're seeing on the turntable right now. These things are amazing. I mean, wow. That Starship Enterprise that you see there that lights up, that was $7. And you know, the shipping cost more than the little toy did. It's just amazing the detail on that. You have lights along the saucer section. You don't even have those on the Diamond Select original series Enterprise toy. That's just amazing the way that they put those lights in there. And there's no light leakage around them or anything. All you're seeing light up is what's supposed to light up. And it just looks beautiful. It's a wonderful design. Once I bought it and saw how nice it was, I went and bought 3 more of them, and I gave them away as Christmas presents. And the people who got them loved them. They got such a kick that it was such an accurate little replica of the original series Enterprise, but it's so small. Look at it. It's just amazing how good a job they did at that. Kudos to that Chip Carter guy. Now these things come, you can see the box in the background. The box contained the shuttlecraft. You can see the Galileo shuttlecraft on top of it. Unfortunately, it doesn't light up as much as the Enterprise does, but it's still pretty nice. Just the impulse engines in the back of the shuttle light up. But this guy, Chip Carter, what he does is he makes these little booklets. And in the booklets, he'll explain some things about Star Trek. You know, if you buy the Enterprise, he tries to explain some of the Enterprise science. You know, puts pictures in there of different scenes from the movie and different actors and things. And so he puts a little booklet in there, and then he puts the little model in there. And, you know, as I said, the Enterprise was $7. I think the Galileo shuttlecraft was $10. You can see the little phaser there. It's a little cutie. It's too bad there's no sound effects or anything. I mean, look at it though. Look at how accurate it is. That's just beautiful. That's the gold handle one that you see online. And look, you press the button and it just lights up. But look at how cute that is, man. That's fantastic. That would be great if you have some little Kirk figurine or something at home and that would fit in his hand. That's a great little replica. And then you move from there, of course, you have the Enterprise and the way it's lit up along the saucer and along the neck there and at the top of the saucer. I just can't believe the detail in that. It's too bad that the secondary hull isn't lit up at all, but for $7, I mean, that's amazing value for $7. Now we have the little communicator that he designed. It's not the same size, although, you know, when I was a kid I thought this was the right size for the communicator, but it's not, obviously. You can see the one from the Wand Company and the replica made by Diamond Select. Those are the correct size. They're to scale. This is not to scale, it's too small, but it would still work perfectly for, you know, a Star Trek costume at Halloween or cosplay or something. Who cares if it's not quite the right size? I bet you most people wouldn't even realize it. You know, it fits in the hand nicely, it pops open, it's got a few little sound effects. Is that great or what? And this was, I think this was about $10 when I bought it. Now, what I've found is that there's 2 other products being made by Chip Carter. They're not going to be coming out until this May, so I've pre-ordered them. One was a little next generation a tricorder, and it's going for about $12. And I think the other one was a Borg cube, and they'll be a similar size to these, and I think that was also going for about $12. So I pre-ordered those. I'm in full trust that they'll show up. I don't have to pay them until Amazon actually ships them. But this communicator and the phaser there were also pre-ordered, and they arrived without any problems. I ordered them about 6 months before they were available. These things are all over Amazon. They're not expensive at all. They make great Christmas gifts, and I think they're even stocked by Amazon Prime, some of them. So you could use them to top up an order that's close to $35 for free shipping. And would that make a great stocking stuffer for a Star Trek fan? And the price is sure right for a stocking stuffer. So, you know, you really can't go wrong. Big kudos to this Chip Carter guy. I hope whoever licensed him to create these things keeps giving him the licenses he needs to keep doing his job, because he's doing a fantastic job at creating accurate little model replicas that are high quality and great value. This pretty much wraps it up for the stuff I want to show off for my Star Trek collection. I do have the landing party set from Diamond Select, but it's not near the same quality as the other things I've shown. It does contain a tricorder, and it's not a bad tricorder. It's a little plasticky and hollow feeling, but what do you expect? It's just a toy, right? But it does have some cool sound effects in it. Even comes with the little woo-woo device that they hold in their hand against somebody's chest to try and, you know, look in the back and see what his heart rate is or whatever the hell they're supposed to be doing with it. Overall, it's pretty good quality, but you know, it's nowhere near the quality of those the Wand Company phaser and communicator replicas. So I really don't see the point in showing them off here. I really hope the Wand Company comes out with a tricorder replica. I think maybe they could make a really nice Bluetooth speaker or something from a tricorder size object. That would be pretty cool. I'm sure they have their own ideas of what they could come out with. Maybe a little mini refrigerator to keep your beer in or something. Who knows? But you know, maybe in the future I'll be doing some more videos. I'm sure not planning on stopping my collection anytime soon. And if I do find something cool, I'll be sure to post it and let everyone check it out. Thanks for watching. If you were watching, if you only watched a few minutes of it and took off, then fuck you. Who needs you? Just kidding. Enjoy, guys. All this stuff, 90% of it, you can get it off Amazon if you're willing to pay.